Guitar in fourth gear, transitioning from standard tuning to perfect fourths tuning. And you can transform your guitar playing with the symmetry, logic, and simplicity of perfect fourths tuning. Hi, I'm Chris Adams, and I transitioned to perfect fourths tuning a few years ago. I've been playing guitar since I was 14 years old, standard tuning. And I decided to switch because it makes learning guitar easier. What I decided to do recently was kind of relearn guitar from first principles, really. And what makes a guitar in my head hard to learn is that there's the shift to the B string made it so I had to memorize too much. And so by shifting to perfect fourths tuning, you can think more in terms of intervals instead of larger patterns. So we'll get into it. And also what I decided to do is write some books to document my journey. So this is a part of the book. I'll be explaining the books as we go. So what is it? So the standard tuning is, I'm in standard tuning right now. Everybody is probably familiar with that, E, A, D, G, B, E. So we're tuning fourths. So at the 5th fret, this is, and then we do this special tuning down at the 4th fret. And then we're back up to the same relationship. So this relationship is a fourth, perfect fourth, the same relationship as this one. But because there's a shift in the guitar to get the other notes. The main way, the reason why, is so that this note is the same, it's 2 octaves up on the same fret, so that we get these nice, beautiful kind of cowboy chords. So to get from to perfect fourths tuning, you don't have to do much. You can turn the top 2 strings up, which some people do. I prefer to tune my bottom 3 strings down because it makes the strings kind of softer, easier to bend and looser. And on a Strat, they sound good. You get closer to that kind of Jimi Hendrix tone because he tuned down a half step, and you also gain a note instead of losing a note. So you can still do riffs that use the open B and E strings, and then you just have to fret the note to do it. So you may want to change your strings to lighter strings. I use 8s normally on an acoustic. I don't remember what these are, but consider that. But at least to try it, all you have to do is retune your guitar, and you try it, and if you like it, great. If not, I found that I was able to kind of get around pretty well almost immediately, and then after a couple of months I would do it. And part of why I did it was because, as a middle-aged guitarist, I was stuck in my boxes. I would play an awful lot here at the 5th fret, 7th fret, and the 12th fret, and I didn't have that many ideas outside of the blues box, even though I played in bands for many years, but this helped unlock that for me. So with a fourths tuning, it's symmetrical. It's much simpler when you're working with your patterns, and there's much less memorization. This was the biggest thing for me. So it's like a third less, and I'll explain why in a second. So you basically, instead of needing to use 3 different chord shapes to play across the neck, you can use the same one. And so once you do that, if you were going to spend an hour a day practicing or thinking about something, you could spend that whole hour on something instead of having 3 20-minute segments to learn it to learn the same scale 3 different ways. And you can get to more modern angular sounds or sounds based on fourths. Like I like Voivod, and they use a lot of fourths, so it's easier to play those. And also, if you are trying the multi-string guitars, 7, 8-string guitars, or 6-string bass, or 5-string bass, or 4-string bass, if you tune everything in fourths, you can bring your pattern knowledge with you across all the instruments. So that's another big plus. The downsides are you miss the cowboy chords, and I don't say you don't want to be an absolutist with your tuning. So if you're writing a part and you want to tune in Dadgad, go for it and do it. If you're playing cover songs, keep your guitar tuned in standard tuning. Don't take hard mode. But if you're like me and you want to learn to play, like I watch the videos of the advanced players and listen to like Rick Beato, like millions of people do, and like he plays something that like hurts my brain to watch, but then I can maybe slow it down and learn a pattern that he's using, and instead of spending 25 years practicing that pattern, I only have to spend 8 years practicing the pattern. I can maybe get more on it. So Tom Quayle talks about this, has a lot of videos about this. He uses perfect force tuning. He's one of the first people that got me into it, not personally, but watching his videos. Stanley Jordan is a two-hand tapping guy, really great. Alex Hutchins plays in this tuning, is known for playing this tuning, and Ant Law is also known for playing this tuning. So you're not alone. So I've gotten over using the same shapes. So this is the CAGED that people are familiar with, and I'm currently in standard tuning. So you have the three shapes. You have the E shape, the A shape, which I always have a little trouble with. My hands are kind of big, and then the D shape. But in perfect force tuning, that's all this one shape. It's just how you play that chord across the strings. I'll show you in a second. And then with the other shape in CAGED, you have the G shape, the C shape, and then to play it on the next string over, you go to this F shape. So three shapes, and again, in perfect force tuning, you're only using the one shape. So here we are in CAGED. So we'll go through that one more time. So I'm in standard tuning. So here's my my E shape, the first one, my A shape, my D shape, back in my G shape, my C shape, and my F shape. So now my F shape is basically like half of the E shape, part of the E shape, but because of the way it's tuned, they're kind of in two different places. So my F is here and my E looks different. So to play those in the same key, so so start on G, because that's kind of easy to get around. So to spell it, C-A-G-E-D. So my G note is up here. So this is my C shape for my G chord. My A shape is here, and then my G shape is down here. Then my E shape is here, and my D shape is here. Okay, so that's, for me, that's a lot of memorization. So let's go to the perfect fourths way to do the same thing. So I'm going to tune down. I'll just do it real quick here. Whoops. What am I doing here? So to play the E note, the E chord, so now I'm at E flat, more or less. Sorry. I still have my E chord. But I'm playing it in basically at the first fret, F position, and I'm leaving these two strings open. So one thing we miss is if you try to play a barcode, these top two notes are going to be very sour. Not so much. So that's the one thing you miss. These two notes in an E chord are just duplicates of these notes. They're just the same notes an octave higher. So you're not. So in perfect force tuning, you miss that easy duplication. You can still play it on open string. So you're playing four notes at a time in this pattern. But, so this is my E, and then for my A, I just move over one fret. And I'm not quite in tune, but you get the idea. And then for my D, look at that, one shape all the way across. Oops, oops. And, okay, so it's one shape for every chord that goes root, fifth, octave, third. Your E shape. And the A in standard tuning is the same thing, but you just, because of the change of this to a major third interval, you have to make a different shape with your fingers. Not anymore. And then for the G shape, for the G and C shape, it's just this. Whoops. better. But you can play it all the way across. And then the F that we had to make the other shape is here. So the way this is basically if you're used to playing the partial of the bar chord, the E-shaped bar chord, it's the same except you're taking the top two strings and moving top fret that you normally play and moving them down. So this sounds good in perfect fourth. Whoops. It's this. And we're here. So I'm barring all these notes. And so it's just that shape all the way across. So if I want to play, like from CAGED, we had a bunch of different shapes. So here's the, so we start with the C, which is this one shape, the root 3-5 shape. And we can add the octave. So here's a triad with octave on the top. So that's our C shape. And then for the A shape, we're playing that one shape. And then the G shape, we're playing the same shape that we just played, the second shape. And then the E shape, then what's up? And then the D shape, which is the, so it's really the D shape is the octave above. We just go here's our G on this string. And G, it's actually, sorry, third fret. It's G flat the way we're playing it. But it's the exact same finger shape. So that's just the difference between CAGED and perfect fourth. So you have two chord shapes to remember, and you can play them across three strings instead of 5 chord shapes to remember. They're all like basically completely different. So the same thing also goes for intervals. So that say you're doing like a whatever kind of riffs like that. Your fingers are the exact same. When you hold your fingers 2 frets apart, 2 strings apart and 2 frets apart, now it's an octave everywhere. You don't have to remember to get up here. And so when you extend that across all the intervals, like a major 10th, which is a nice sound, it's the same everywhere. And what it helped me do is really start using the fingerboard outside of my 5th fret, 7th fret, below 3rd fret, and 12th fret. So I can say, oh, I can play here. If I know the octave here, if I'm playing a riff here on the 12th fret, I can find the octave at the 10th fret, which is kind of like a little unfamiliar neighborhood to me. But now that I see the whole thing as a grid of fourths, the intervals make more sense. So I have other videos about intervals, but when you practice them, they're just now the same. So this is a first inversion of a minor triad. So you don't have to think about where your fingers are as much. Once you know that this is the first inversion of minor triad, or it has other names, depending on what you're doing, that becomes part of your vocabulary. But you don't have to change your accent. You don't have to fake it on Thanksgiving dinner. You know what I mean? So you can always have the same sound from the same shape in your fingers, which is very powerful when you go through the process that I've been going through of kind of, basically relearning the guitar in your 30s, 40s, 50s in a slightly different shape. It's not that big a deal. There's only like one small note change. But when I'm improvising, I instantly know that if I have this note, I know this is always going to be an octave. So whether I play the note on this string or this string, I don't play my acoustic that much, so I'm not that familiar with it. But anyway, like I said, same relationship all over the neck. So also when you're practicing, you could practice way up here. And just get used to having the same sound happen all the time. Scales are the same. So if I'm here, if I'm going, which part is that? 8th. So that might be a major scale. Fragment, it's an octave. I can play the exact same shape. Oops. I find my octave up here. So starting on the 3rd fret. So the same exact shape, and then I can go here. So if I'm going to play scales for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I can play the exact same scale fragment, and I just and I can just my whole 10 minutes that I'm practicing that scale, I'm practicing the exact same shape all over the neck, and it speeds up. There's like an infinite amount to learn, but this is like a third of the infinite, because you don't have to keep relearning the shapes. So I decided if you decide to go on this journey along with me, you're going to save you're going to be able to progress faster into what you're able to do, because you just have to do a lot less of it. So this is my book, Guitar in 4th Gear, one of my books. You can find it on Amazon. This particular book is kind of the introduction, more of the same things, like you used to do it this way, now you can do it this way. I have other books that go into detail on triads, and I'm currently writing one on pentatonics. So it's just like a slight change, but for me, it unlocked the whole thing. So thanks for getting this far, and have a great day.